I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Hey guys, if you like what I'm doing, click the Amazon banner at the top of the homepage on FascinationStreetPod.com and do all of your shopping through Amazon. Once you click on it and it takes you to Amazon, you can bookmark it or add it to your favorites and you won't have to go to my site each time. It helps me keep the show going, and again, thanks for listening. Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with Kristine Raymond. Kristine is an author who didn't know she was an author until later in life. And once she wrote her first book, that opened the floodgates, and she's on her 16th book. In this episode, we talk about why she chose writing, or why writing chose her. And we also talk about the character development process and the writing process overall. Of course, we discuss some of her previous books and the ones she's currently working on. Plus, we talk about some of the ones that are coming down the pipe in the future. This is a really engaging conversation with a writer who has so many ideas she'll probably never get to them all. So enjoy, folks. This is author Kristine Raymond.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Welcome to Fascination Street Podcast, Kristine Raymond. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show.
It is absolutely my pleasure. So, we are talking to Kristine Raymond, who is a writer, and from what I can tell, she hasn't been writing very long, but she has been writing a lot. So, let's get right into it. Where are you from, Kristine?
Originally from New England, but I live in Kentucky now.
Okay, so New England is really broad. So are you from all 13 colonies?
No, I'm from the tiniest colony. I'm from Rhode Island.
Oh, that doesn't even count. You know, the only other person I've ever heard of that's from Rhode Island was that one ass crack from the Jersey Shore. The Situation,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, I don't even know who that is.
Good for you. Okay, so why Rhode Island?
Well, that's where I was born, so I kind of didn't have too much of a say in it.
That is so weird. You didn't get to choose what state you were born in?
No, sure didn't.
New England is weird. So, you're born in Rhode Island. I agree with you. Let's not own that. Let's just say all of New England. So I guess you're a fan of the Rhode Island Patriots?
You mean the New England Patriots?
Same thing. Yeah.
I do know the name of the team, but no, I'm not. I don't follow sports at all, with the exception of the Triple Crown. The Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont. That's the only
You do
sporting
not have to
anything.
explain those three to me, because I lived in Louisville for a year and a half.
Well, there you go. Well, some people don't know what the Triple Crown is. You can say the Kentucky Derby, and they're fine with it, but they don't know the other two races. So, but that's the only sporting event I follow. I don't follow football, basketball, baseball, soccer, any of it.
Gotcha. So for those of you listening who, previous to that discussion, did not know what the Triple Crown was, go ahead and stop listening right now and jump off of the tallest building you can find. Just kidding. So you're growing up in Rhode Island, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
A mother.
Really?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Well, did
But
you
that
achieve
didn't-
your goal?
No, that didn't pan out. I'm mom to a lot of rescued fur babies, but human children not so much. But that's okay. It all worked out the way it was supposed to, so it's all good.
I guess it did. So, since what you wanted to be when you grew up was a mother, what did you end up being when you grew up? What was your career?
You know, I never really had a career. I just worked jobs. There's a really big difference. I think a career is something that you do because you really love it and you're lucky enough to make a living at it. You know, I did mostly office work and, got a paycheck, and that was about it. And then a little over 5 years ago, I decided that I wanted to try out this new thing called self-publishing, become an indie author, and I gave it a shot and started writing and haven't looked back since. So my new career is an author.
Okay, so When did you decide, like at what age did you decide that you could actually string sentences together in a coherent fashion?
Oh, to start writing books, I would
Hold
have
on.
been like
Did you
5 years ago.
Did you say oh poot?
No, I didn't.
Okay, good. All right. I'm going to check the tape, but I'm pretty sure that's what you said. Okay, so.
No, I was trying to think back to how I said writing books. It was, what was I, 5 years of 47?
Well,
46?
as it so happens, 47 is my favorite number. So you were well into adulthood when you decided, or when you figured out that you could weave a tale?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I did the teenage angsty poetry stuff, but writing as a career or even as a hobby wasn't anything that ever interested me.
So what do you think flipped that switch?
I was working with a girl who had self-published her own books, and we started talking about it, and it sounded like an interesting idea, and I thought, I love to read, and I thought, well, let me give this a try. It sounds kind of cool. And I sat down in Labor Day weekend 2013 and wrote my first book. And now I'm working on my 16th book. So it stuck. I guess it was always there inside of me, and that was the time that it wanted to express itself.
Interesting. So you said you were working with a girl. Did you just at an office job?
Yep,
wow.
Laramie Briscoe. She's a pretty well-known author now.
That's a real name? That can't be a real name.
Yeah, Laramie Briscoe. Yep.
That sounds like 2 towns in Wyoming or something. That's awesome. Very cool. So
yeah, she's a USA Today bestseller. So
oh, cool.
She's doing something right. Yep.
So she gave you the inspiration, or did she just show you that anybody can do it?
Well, I mean, I talked to her about the process and kind of what was involved, because it was completely foreign to me. I mean, I didn't even have social media. I didn't know anything about any of the process of self-publishing. And she guided me step by step through the whole thing. And like I said, I just kind of sat down and wrote this book and thought, okay, I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to put it out there and see what happens. And by the time I was finished that book, I'd already started book 2, and there's 9 books in that series, the Hidden Spring series, and I've gone on to write other genres, and I have so many story ideas, I'll never get them all written.
So the first book you wrote was in the series of 9 Hidden Springs novels?
Yes, it's a historical Western romance.
I'm glad you said that. What in the heck is historical Western romance suspense?
It's set in the late 1800s, so there's your historical part, and it's a Western. There's historicals can be all different categories. You can have Regency, you can have Victorian, you can have Scottish, English, minor Westerns, the romance, and then all of my books have just a little twist of suspense in them.
Why did you decide to go with the Western?
I love Westerns. I have since I was a kid. If I could time travel, I would be back in the Old West. I cannot explain my fascination with it, but I have always loved it. And I had no doubt at all that my first book was going to be a historical Western.
Interesting. And so what made you decide to go down the romance avenue?
Because I like reading it. I mean, most of the books on my shelf are romance. And, I like a happily ever after. I like figuring out how 2 people are going to get together when the odds are against them, that kind of thing. And, who doesn't love a love story?
Cranky old a-holes, that's who. I think that's really cool that you made the art that you wanted to see in the world. You picked your favorite things, and then you did those things. I think that's really cool and a great way to start.
It's been a lot of fun. It really has. And that's one of the things that you hear all the time as an author is write what you know, but also write the book that you'd want to read. That's what I did. I wrote the books that I'd want to read. That's the kind of thing that I enjoy.
In the vein of write what you want to read, that means that Stephen King is a sick, twisted fool.
No, it just means that he likes the more horror type stuff.
Boy, does he. So, did you say you started on Labor Day?
I started Labor Day weekend 2013.
And how long did it take you to write that first book?
18 days.
18 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. So were they long days where you just couldn't stop typing? It was just flowing and you couldn't stop it?
Pretty much. And I think it's because I didn't know anything. I just really wasn't worried about page count or chapters, or pretty much it was just so completely new to me that I just sat down and just wrote this story. And no other story has come to me as quickly as Here to Stay did.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So like it was just trapped in there for all those years, just waiting to find a way out?
I guess. You know, it wasn't really anything that I had ever thought about prior to that. I just sat down and said, you know, this is what I'm going to write about. These are the characters I'm going to create, and this is the town they live in, and this is what's going to happen. And it's really difficult to explain how a story gets created. And I think really only other authors understand when you say that sometimes they just happen. It's not a conscious thought process. The ideas can just appear in your brain and suddenly it makes sense and you're putting it down on paper. And there's no rational explanation for how it works.
Well, I think that is a very excellent way to say it. And I think that you said at the beginning that you didn't know how to do it or whatever. I think you said you didn't know anything.
Right.
That reminds me of like when I was a little kid, I think I was in 4th or 5th grade. I read something. It was probably on like a poster, like one of those stupid hang in there kitten posters or whatever. But it was something to the effect of, it's amazing what you can do when you don't know you can't do it.
Right.
And that has stuck with me for my entire life. And I think that what you said sort of expresses that. Like, had you known that there was word count, that there was structure, or that there was, you know, whatever it is that, you know, that are the, I guess, the keys to writing a book. Had you known what those were, it probably would have impeded the flow of that very first book.
Oh, absolutely. I know it would have, because it impedes, you know, the books that I write now, because I can be writing it and then find myself getting caught up in word count, or will the reader like where this is going, or, you know, all sorts of different things like that. And those are the kind of things you really, as an author, you want to let go of. You don't want to worry about that. You just want to let the story flow. It's like an artist painting a picture. They don't necessarily see the entire picture. They're just putting color on canvas, and what they're putting on that canvas, once they step back, they see the picture. It's kind of the same with writing, at least it is for me. I don't see the whole story when I'm writing it. It's only when I step back and start reading it that it's like, oh wow, okay. You know, this is what I created.
Nice. So you're painting trees, and then at the end you'll step back and see a whole forest.
Right. Exactly.
So what series was next? Was it the Celebration series, or won't you tell me what was next? Or were they mixed in?
They were mixed in. After the 4th Hidden Springs book, which was A Chance on Love, I kind of got a little burnt out on historical. I needed to do something where I didn't have to do as much research. So I ended up writing By Dawn's Early Light, which was supposed to be a standalone, but I had a reader who loved that book so much that she just kept urging me to write more, to expand on that story. And I eventually wrote Reservations for Two and Under the Mistletoe and made that series a trilogy. In between that, I was doing more Hidden Springs too.
What is that reader's name?
Her name is Barbara, and she gets the credit for the fact that there's more books in that series.
Way to go, Barbara. Thanks for not giving up on her after she wrote the first one.
She's very proud of herself. And honestly, I mean, I really do appreciate that she kept encouraging me to write more, because I love the other 2 books that I wrote, even though I was adamant that By Dawn's Early Light was going to be a standalone. So I've really learned to never say never, because anything can happen.
Well, let me ask you this. When do you say never?
I really don't in this business. Or I haven't, well, let me put this, I haven't yet.
That is the correct answer.
Yeah. I'm kind of open to any opportunity that comes out of this, whether it's, story-wise or promotion-wise, or if Hollywood wants to give me a call and turn one of my books into a movie. I'm open to anything.
Well, it sounds like you got a nice little series going with Hidden Springs and even a trilogy with the Celebration series. I'm talking to you, Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon. What are y'all doing? Nothing? So I think you said that you did a lot of research for Hidden Springs.
I did research as I was writing the book because I wanted to be accurate as far as dates and when things were invented. So I would write part of the book. I'd write a scene and then I'd go, okay, well, had that been invented yet? Let me go and I'd check. And so I did an awful lot of Googling.
Gotcha. So like if there's a gunfight in the middle of the street and one person throws his iPhone at the other one, that's not going to fly?
Yeah, no, can't have that happen. But even as far as, describing what kind of gun was used, as an example, I would research, when a Smith & Wesson was invented or a Colt, or I really tried to keep those details as accurate as I could.
What does your Google search history look like? Are you on a list somewhere?
Probably. I think all authors are.
They have to be, right?
It's just an unwritten rule that if something happens to us, the first thing that any loved one or friend does is just erase our browser history.
Yeah, just stick that computer in the microwave upon my death.
Well, right now I've completely switched genres and I'm working on a cozy mystery. And so last week, pretty much every search that I did had the word morgue in it. So, yeah.
That's funny. So when you write, do you write on paper or a computer or heavens to Betsy, a typewriter?
For the most part, it's on my computer. Every once in a while, I will take a pad and paper and a pen and write a scene by hand. But honestly, that just seems like double work for me because then I have to go back and type it into the computer anyway. I do always keep pen and paper near me, though, because I'll get the perfect sentence or the perfect name for a character or a perfect piece of dialogue will always hit me at the most inopportune time. So I always have to have something nearby to write it down. I've written out scenes on tissue, like actual Kleenexes before, because that was the only paper I had available.
You and Picasso. That's awesome. Tell me about Right Words. What's that?
That was just a little book that I put together. It's nonfiction. It's about my first year as an indie author, kind of the things I learned, the impressions that I got from that whole business. It was just kind of, sort of humorous, some of it not so humorous, just a cute little thing that I put out there. I don't know, there was so much there's so much to learn in this business. And I'm still learning, but at the beginning every single term was foreign to me. I didn't know what a formatter was. I'd never heard of, author events or, the difference between an EPUB and a MOBI and just all of these different things. And it's something that I did on my own. I didn't go to school to study how to be an author, how to self-publish, but it's almost like the equivalent. You have to learn all of these things in order to be successful at it, aside from just the writing part.
And so are those some of the things that you cover in Right Words?
Yes, I talk about how I got started, and there's a chapter about the competition that a lot of authors find themselves in. It's really easy to compare yourselves with other people, and you have to remind yourself daily not to do that because it's not a competition. There are plenty of readers out there for all the different kinds of books that are out there. The only person you really should be in competition with is yourself to make, each book better than the one before. But it's really hard not to compare. You see someone else who put a book out and you see them doing really well, and maybe your book isn't doing as well. And you think, well, what am I doing differently? What are they doing that's making them successful and I'm not? And there's a lot of emotion in, at least for me, but I've spoken to enough other authors and I know it's not just me. There's just a lot of emotion that goes along with the work.
I think that makes sense. And I think that is not exclusive to writers. I mean, when I started this podcast, I'm comparing myself to people who have been a movie star for 25 years and then started a podcast and had, instantly they had 200,000 listeners. And so why would I compare myself to that? I mean, I've never been a movie star, not even one time. And, I didn't have 200,000 people that cared about what I had to say. So it was, like you said, it's sort of a daily struggle, especially back then, to tell myself, I'm not competing with those people. Obviously, as time goes on, you get more listeners and things improve and you get more readers. And like you said, there's enough readers for everybody. And, I feel that same way about podcasting. But much like you, I'm assuming that road was slow going at the beginning. But, now you're, 15, almost 16 books into this. And I would imagine that you're almost on cruise control, just flying down the highway, right?
Yeah, no. No, I'm still in that stick shift, maybe getting it up to third gear, but no cruise control, but that's okay. I'm enjoying the ride. It's for as many times as it can get frustrating. Any job is frustrating. And that's the thing. Even though this is something that I chose to do and I enjoy it, it is still a job. There's still a lot of work that goes into it, and not every day is going to be a good day, and that's okay.
I think that, what you said there is a pretty good point, that if you don't treat it like a job, then you're not giving it the respect that it deserves if you are passionate about it.
Well, right, because I'm only going to be as successful as the amount of effort I put into this. If I want it to be a hobby, then that's fine. And for the authors out there who want it to be a hobby, that's fine. You do what you want to do with it and you promote it the way you want to promote it. For me, I always try to keep in mind that this is something that I hopefully will one day support me. I look at it even with what I post on social media, that this is my profession, and anything I post can come back to haunt me. And so, I'm careful about that. And I do my best to be professional when I'm dealing with any aspect of the book industry, in my life.
How difficult was it to publish your first book?
Scary. As far as difficult, the procedure is pretty simple, but it was scary to put it out there, to suddenly open myself up to potentially millions of people who are going to judge me based on the story that I wrote. And I still get kind of those same little quivers a little bit every time I publish a book, but none as bad as I did when I published Here to Stay. I mean, I can remember hitting the publish button on Amazon and crying, because it was exhilarating that I had done this, that I was taking this step, and at the same time, it was just so frightening.
My name is Phil Rossi. I'm the creator of the sci-fi horror experience Crescent, along with Eden, Harvey, and a whole lot of other scary stories. I was quiet for a while, but I'm here to let you know that I'm back, and in a big way. 50 hours of all new podcasts are ready for download on demand, including my new book, The Trance, a gothic cyberpunk detective story. And let me tell you, this book has got fangs. So here's the deal. For less than a cup of coffee or a pint of beer, you can become my executive producer. You can play a key part in taking my words off the computer screen onto the page and into the airwaves. For more info, free podcasts, and to sign up to become a part of my next big story, please visit patreon.com/Phil Rossi. Now turn out the lights and take a deep breath, because the story is about to begin.
So you said that you sort of feared, judgment from all these random strangers. What was it that you feared they would say?
Well, that they wouldn't like the story. And actually, there are people out there that don't like the story, and I've got the reviews to prove it. But I've learned that that's okay, because not everybody is going to like it. Not everybody likes everything. I mean, I believe it is impossible to find an audience of 100%. You're never going to find, I don't care if it's music, movies, books, art, whatever it is, you are not going to find 100% of the population likes that thing. There are always going to be people that don't like it, and that's okay. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. There are a lot of things out there that are extremely popular that I don't like. That's okay. I was able to kind of move past that. I mean, negative reviews, they sting. They're not fun to read, but I've realized that people are entitled to their opinion, and I guess I get enough positive feedback that I'm confident that I should still be putting books out there, that they're not, complete garbage.
Well, I think that it's important to remember that you're writing those stories that you want to read, and you're writing them for you, and you're expressing them for you, and you're sharing them for you. And so, one of the things that I don't like about kind of where our culture has gotten is that nobody says that's not for me. They say that sucks, or that's terrible, or that's garbage, but nobody says it's not for me. And
right.
A friend of mine, he has a podcast, and, that's kind of how I met him. And that was one of the things that I noticed, and he never really pointed it out and was like, hey, check me out. But what he did say was, somebody, cause it's sort of a music podcast. And so he would talk about music, and he would, talk about what he's listening to currently, and whoever his guests would be, sometimes they'd be like, oh, I don't like that guy. That guy sucks. Or, oh, that chick's terrible. And he would always correct him and say, you know what? They are successful. They have a lot of fans, and, me being one of them. And so maybe they're not terrible. Maybe they're just not for you. And so I really tried to, in the last year or so, try to retrain myself to stop saying things don't suck, or I don't like it, or it's garbage, or whatever, because I was pretty bad about that, I think. And besides the fact that nobody really cares about my opinion, much like I don't honestly care about other people's opinion of what I enjoy, I've really tried to steer into it's not for me. There's plenty of things that aren't for me, but that are great.
Exactly. I mean, there are probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people who love the 50 Shades series, the books, the movies. I've never seen them. I've never read them. I'm not interested in them. It's not for me. I'm not going to say that it's good or bad because I've never read them or seen the movies to even form an opinion, but, it's wildly popular. I know that, I love the Harry Potter series, but I know that there are people out there that don't like it. That's what the world's made up of, and that's okay. It's fine to have differing opinions and to like things that other people don't. That's why, again, I don't see it as a competition that there's so many books out there, because there really is something for everyone.
I agree. And to the 50 Shades of Grey series, that's not for me either, but those three, I think it's three, those movies grossed over $1 billion worldwide. And since movie tickets are not $1 billion, that means there's a lot of people who those films are for. So they don't suck. They're just not for me, and they're not for you. And that's okay. We'll just go do something else.
That's right.
So
I'll go write another book.
That's right. There you go. I'll record another podcast. So I think it's really, I really, really wish that more people, I think it'd be a lot happier place to hang out if less people were so derogatory and so quick to be dismissive.
I agree. And it's fine to have an opinion. It really is. Everybody has one. They're entitled to it. They're entitled to feel the way they want to feel. It's just how you express that opinion. I think as a society, we need to step back and take a look at how we're expressing it.
Yeah, what you said. Tell me about Seasons of Love.
Oh, Seasons of Love was so much fun to write. It is a collection of 4 short stories, each one with a seasonal theme, and each one with a character who, I guess the new saying is, they're in their prime. If a woman is over 30, she's in her prime.
Prime of what?
Prime of her life, I guess. Prime of her romantic life.
Okay.
But so Seasons of Love starts off with dogwoods in springtime, and then goes into seashells in summer, aspens in autumn, snowflakes in winter. A character in each story has a tie to a character in another story, but they are 4 individual, complete, happily ever after stories in and of themselves. But it was so much fun to write. These settings are either places I've lived or visited. So that was kind of a fun challenge, too, to kind of dig back into my memory banks and say, okay, what was Nantucket Island like when I visited there when I was 19? But I just really had a lot of fun with those stories.
So what gave you the idea to string them together with that, that thread of, a character?
I have no idea where my ideas come from. I mean, they just kind of come to me. I was just thinking about, this would just be kind of cool to do. So Carolyn, who is the main character in Dogwoods in Springtime, her sister is the main character in Seashells in Summer. And then the love interest of Taylor in Seashells in Summer, his best friend is the main character in Aspens, and his ex-wife is the main character in Snowflake.
Interesting.
And then the male main character in Snowflakes is Caroline's brother-in-law, so it ties back into springtime. I just thought it was
it's a loop.
Really, yeah, it is. I just thought it was a really creative, fun way to tell the stories.
Well, I think that sounds very intriguing.
Thank you. Each one takes place over 3 months. You're not necessarily reading 3 months worth of story, but Dogwood starts out in March, so it's March, April, May. Seashells is June, July, August. Aspens is September, October, November. And Snowflakes is December, January, February. So you get the whole year covered.
Very cool. And you didn't start in January. You started in March.
In March, because spring starts in March.
Cool.
So it's a seasonal theme. Yep.
I like it. Have you ever based any of your characters on anybody in your real life?
Some of my characters, parts of their personality are based on people in my real life. I've used family names, especially in the Hidden Spring series. One of the characters is named after my grandfather, and the middle name of another character is named after my great-grandmother. And so different aspects of people, even myself, end up in my stories. I've never, flat out taken a person and made them a character, although in By Dawn's Early Light, Monica is based on my best friend, Monica. And she knew it going in. She actually helped me with some of the details. She got to kind of write that story a little bit. She got to pick out the name of her love interest in the story and the name of her daughter in the story. So that was kind of fun.
That is fun. Was she excited when it was all done and she got to read it?
Oh, yeah. She liked it.
We're going to move away from your actual books for just a minute. And so far there's 15, and you're working on a 16th one, which you described earlier as a cozy mystery. What the heck is a cozy mystery?
Think Murder, She Wrote with Angela Lansbury. Cozy mysteries are those where the deaths kind of happen off the page. You don't see the blood and the gore and how the person died. It's more you're main character stumbles over a dead body kind of thing and then has to figure out how they died.
You might not know, but why did you decide to write a cozy novel or a cozy mystery?
I wanted to take a break from romance, which I never will completely. I already have a romance series planned for later this year, but I just kind of needed a break, wanted to try something different. I like mysteries, and just thought, this is what I'm going to go with. Again, I formed an idea of a character, and I wasn't sure when I first started writing it whether it would be more of a thriller or a cozy mystery. I wasn't sure how much mayhem and death I wanted to show on the page, but I decided to go more the cozy route, kind of keep away from all of that. Not that I have any problem reading the blood and the gore if it's the right setting for it, but just decided to go a more cozy route. And
I think that's a great answer.
Thanks.
So it's fun, like getting to play in that world?
It is, and it's different from romance. I mean, there is a little love interest in this one, but it's definitely not a romance. There's, not the kissing and the chemistry between the two couple trying to get together. There's none of that. So it's kind of a challenge to write something completely different. But I'm just having so much fun with my character Finn. She's a riot.
Is that a period piece, or does it take place, in any particular time?
Just contemporary, just, current time.
So there is cell phones?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, cell phones, texting, yep, all of that kind of stuff.
Very cool. Did you say you had an upcoming series planned for another romance series?
I do. I've got a 7-book contemporary romance series planned that I'd like to at least get the first book out this year. And I actually have another historical Western romance planned that has nothing to do with Hidden Springs. So I've got...
It's in the next town over?
Actually, it's in a different state, but... Yeah, I don't think I'll ever completely get away from historical romance either.
So do you just have like a Beautiful Mind style, just like yarn and pictures and words just written all over your walls of your house, trying to keep everything straight and what's coming up and what's already happened? And
kind of. I have a notebook that goes with me everywhere that has character names, plot ideas, book titles, again, a great piece of dialogue that might not fit into any story that I'm working on right now, but it's a great piece, so I'll write it down. And yeah, I mean, seriously, I have more story ideas written down than I will ever have time in my life to write.
Good Lord. Are you any faster at writing books? You said the first one took 18 days.
No, actually, I'm slower now for the most part. And I think it's because, again, I do get caught up in, what do people expect? How long do I want to make the book? With Here to Stay, I just didn't worry about any of that. I just sat down and wrote the story. But now I worry over different things and have to talk myself out of getting into that mindset and just concentrate on writing the story. And some of them do come together quicker than others.
Let's talk about your website for a little bit. It is, for everybody listening, it is KristineRaymond.com. You can scroll down and you'll find it in the show notes. On your website, you also, obviously you have all of your books that you've written so far, and you have a blog. Tell me about your blog.
I have a blog that I do not write in that often. I just, I have a hard time thinking of things to say sometimes. So
that's really funny coming from you.
Yeah, I know. Right? My mother thinks so too. When I write, I get very particular about what I write. It's hard for me to just write freely and not worry about sentence construction and punctuation and grammar and things like that. And it can honestly take me hours to write a blog post. And I really don't think I necessarily have that many interesting things to say. So I don't blog as often as I should. But it's called Start with One Word because that's how you start. I mean, you begin with that first word and then just build from there. And again, it's kind of hit or miss. So if you like surprises, follow my blog, and you never know when you're going to get a new post.
All right, let's talk about your podcast. You have a podcast called Wordplay with Kristine Raymond.
I do.
If I understand this correctly, you interview other authors, or y'all have a conversation?
That's right. It's not so much an interview as in a question and answer kind of thing. It's just me chatting with other authors, and we sit and, well, I say we sit. It's done over the phone, but it has the feel of just kind of like sitting in a coffee shop kind of thing. And we chat about books and writing and hobbies, and I've had conversations about Star Trek and people's grandchildren and tea and crocheting. And I mean, the conversation really can go anywhere, and it is so much fun. And I just love chatting with my guests. They're just such great people. And it's really cool to hear other authors' thoughts on the process, and what makes them decide to write the stories they write, and what their interests are, and how they got started. And it's just really cool. It's a lot of fun.
So it's just like you hanging with an interesting person in your profession, and y'all are just shooting the shit.
Yeah, that's it. It's just it's really casual, and it's an opportunity for readers to learn more about their favorite authors in a more casual setting. I mean, author interviews are great, but a lot of the times I feel like I'm answering the same questions over and over. What's your inspiration, or how did you get started? And I understand that people want to learn about that and know how I started doing this. But sometimes you just want to talk about, the favorite book you're reading, or what you do when you're not writing, and the different things that you do that spark an idea in your head. It could be folding laundry or whatever. That's what I try to do on the podcast, is just kind of keep it really casual. It's unscripted. The authors come on not knowing what's going on, but by the end of it, they're having fun. And, there's been times that I've been looking at the clock like, okay, we got to wrap this up, and we want to still talk. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, that is awesome. I don't know if you've tried this, but I tried it earlier with your podcast. If you walk over to your Alexa device and you say, Alexa, play the podcast Wordplay, she will start playing the most recent episode of the podcast. Did you know that?
I have heard that would happen. I don't have an Alexa, so I haven't been able to try it out on my own, but I have read that Alexa has picked up a lot of the podcast, so that is pretty cool. I like that.
That is cool. It's one of my favorite things to tell other podcasters, because for some reason, nobody seems to know about it. Yep.
And Wordplay is also on iHeartRadio and Apple, Google, Podbean, Spotify, Stitcher, pretty much everywhere you can find a podcast. It's out there.
That's fantastic. Now, as far as I know, you have somewhere around 43 to 45 episodes released. I think as of right now, I think there's 2 that are like already says when they're going to be released. It's like, get ready.
Yes.
That's really cool. I like the way you did that.
Thank you. New episodes air every Wednesday. It's Wordplay Wednesdays, and 2 new episodes air. I just started the podcast. It launched October 31st of last year. So yeah, I've got a lot of guests that are excited to be on the show. And honestly, I'll let you know a little industry secret here. I'm actually booked with guests through November of this year already.
That is awesome. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So we want lots of people to listen so that you can hear all of the exciting things that these authors out here are doing, and their ideas and what they like.
Did you say you put out 2 every Wednesday?
I do.
Why?
1 didn't seem like enough. They're not very long. They're just between 20 and 25 minutes, and 1 just didn't seem like it was giving the audience what they wanted. So I figured I'd go with 2.
And on the same day, even.
Yeah, so 2 new
That's
guests every
interesting.
Wednesday. Yep.
I don't think I've ever heard that. That's a very interesting approach.
Hey, I'm a trendsetter.
Yeah, I'll say. I mean, a lot of people do multiple episodes a week or whatever, but they put them on different days. Monday and Thursday or Tuesday and Wednesday, whatever it is. But I've never heard of 2 on the same day. That's pretty cool. I assume that's working for you, or you wouldn't keep doing it, right?
It is. I actually record 2 episodes a week, and then I've got the 2 new ones that go up every Wednesday. And yeah, again, booked through November, so something's working. It's keeping me busy, that's for sure.
Yeah, I bet it is. That is amazing. How many books do you think you'll write this year?
My plan is to publish 3. So 3. I don't know if I'll write more than that.
Well,
like
are you on track to hit that number?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Finagled, which is the cozy mystery, is taking longer than I'd like to wrap itself up, but it's still very possible. It's still very possible.
Have you ever paused in the middle of a book and then come back to it?
Oh yeah, my erotic drama Attempted, that took 4 years from when I started it to when I published it.
Wow.
I got the first 5 chapters of that book and then kind of hit a wall with it and just could not develop it past where it was. And so I put it aside and I worked on some Hidden Springs books and I worked on some contemporary stuff. And every once in a while I'd go back to it and try to pick up the thread, and nope, didn't happen until actually I think it was last year. I think it was last year that I finally was able to finish that book and release it. So I said some books come together very quickly and others don't. And I really believe that they develop at their own pace. You can't force it. The story really does unfold how and when it's supposed to.
Obviously, that makes 100% sense. I mean, you can't force it, or it's going to be not for me.
Right. I'm a big believer in authenticity. I think that to really put out an authentic story, you have to be true to the words that you're putting on the page. You can't be writing them for anyone else. You spoke earlier about how I put the books out for me. I write the ones that I want to write, and I put them out there for me, and then you hope that other people will read them and enjoy them too. And that really is, for me, what it's about, is to write the story that I want to write and have it be, the plot that I want and the characters to act the way that I want them to. And sometimes that takes time to develop. And I've learned to be okay with that. I wasn't very okay with that in the beginning, but I've just learned that that is my process. And some books come together in 18 days and some books take 4 years, and that's okay. It came out when it was supposed to, and it was the story it was supposed to be. And I love it, and I hope readers love it.
Well, I can't imagine they won't, because, like you said, you're super into authenticity, as evidenced by all your research. So you do have one thing on your, another thing on your website that I found very, very fascinating. Can you tell me about the First Pages tab on your website?
First Pages was a promotional idea I had prior to doing the podcast. I love supporting other authors. I just really do. I love getting the word out about the things that they're working on and their stories. So I decided that I would read the first few pages of other authors' books and put them up on YouTube. So I created a YouTube channel for that. And I believe I got 20 some odd episodes done. And then I ended up switching over to the podcast. It was very, very time consuming for me to do First Pages because I wanted to make sure that I got it as perfect as I could. And by that, I mean, I know that most of those, if you watch the videos, you'll hear me flub, but that may have taken 7 or 8 tries. Like I would mess up and then I would start over. So it was extremely time consuming. And then the production part of it. So I didn't stick with that for too long, but I keep those up there because it's a great way for people to hear about, other books. They can click on one of the book covers that they think looks interesting and then go hear the first couple of pages and see if it's something that they'd like to buy.
I think that is awesome. And, again, groundbreaking. I've never heard of anybody doing that. That's really cool.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for doing that for your fellow authors. I think that is really, really sweet.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. It really was. And there's so many great stories out there. No matter what you like, you like romance, you like paranormal, you like, horror, nonfiction, whatever it is, there's just tons of great stories out there. Lots and lots and lots to choose from. Very cool. Now, Kristine, as we're heading out, can you tell everybody where they can find you on social media? I am on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Book in Maine, BookBub. My primary, where I'm usually the busiest, is Facebook and Instagram. I'm trying to get a little better about posting on Book in Maine. That is just such a fun site. It's created where you can put it's called a bite. You can put a little bite of a book up there, which is as much or as little as you like, with links to the books. So that's a fun site. I'm pretty much everywhere, I think. I'm not a very good tweeter. I don't do a whole lot on Twitter, but I try. I'm just not very successful. And are you Kristine Raymond everywhere? I am Kristine Raymond, or Kristine Raymond author, and it's Kristine with a K, Kristine. Gotcha. Now, before I let you go, Kristine, is there anything that we didn't talk about or that I didn't ask you about that you wanted to talk about? I don't think so. I think you pretty much covered it. I love to write. Like I said, I don't see myself ever doing anything else. So I hope people out there will at least give my stories a chance. Right now, if you want to read Tempted, it's on KU, Kindle Unlimited. So that's a good opportunity to read that. And Here to Stay, the first in the Hidden Spring series, is a free download on all platforms. So that gives you a chance to check out my historical Western series without any financial obligation. But hopefully you'll like it enough that you'll go on and buy the rest of the series. No kidding. Talk about first pages. That's a heck of a way to get people interested. That's right. That's right. Let them try it for free. Just like a crack dealer, the first one's free. All right, Kristine, thank you so much for making the time to hang out with me today and letting us get to know you a little bit better on Fascination Street. And I want you to have a great rest of your day, all right? Well, I will. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure talking with you. The honor was mine. You have a great rest of your day in Kentucky. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Hey guys, this is Steve Owens from Fascination Street Podcast here with a very important message. I'm awesome. I bet you thought I was going to say something else, but nope. What's important here is that I am awesome. I started this show because I truly believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear those stories. In the short time I've been doing this show, I've interviewed actors, directors, writers, inventors, podcasters, musicians, pro athletes, Olympic athletes, actual war heroes, even a Bond girl and a luthier, whatever the hell that is, and of course, regular people. From people who wanted to be stars but never gave it a real try, to big company CEOs and people who got to meet their favorite president. I love getting to meet and speak with people who have a story to tell. I feel like everyone does, and it's my job to get them to tell it. You never know who my next guest will be. An Academy Award-winning actor, a platinum-selling musician, or your own mother-in-law. But one thing is for certain, you will be fascinated by their story. So come take a walk with me down Fascination Street. You can find Fascination Street Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and of course, FascinationStreetPod.com. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.